All right, I'm going to show you how you can draw an object that isn't made purely of boxes and using boxes drawn in perspective to help you, how that can help you draw the thing that you're trying to draw. So I'm going to be drawing a car, and this should help you if you're in my design class. It should help you with your design fundamentals space project. So I'm going to start off, of course, with my horizon line and my vanishing point. Remember, the project is 1 point perspective. And if I were trying to draw a car, let's say I'll draw a street here. Remember, you need to have 7 to 11 buildings or 7 to 11 objects that are clearly drawn in perspective if you are doing an interior environment. Let's say we're drawing a road here, so I'll make it kind of wide right here. Let's say on this road we wanted to draw a car. And just for sake of me being able to see what I'm doing, I'm going to lighten the lines for my road because I want to focus on the car there, but I do want to have the road lines there to help me visualize where I'm placing the car. So I'm going to start off with a box. And when it comes to a box, because it's 1 point perspective, I'm going to start off with that front-facing square in particular. So I'm going to start with and there we go. Certainly having pictures of whatever it is that you're drawing next to that will help you to know what elements do you need to have. All right, so I've got my square. And remember, this is 1 point perspective, so I'm going to be drawing my 1 point perspective cube here. When you understand what you're doing enough, you don't even have to go all the way back to the vanishing point. If you've done this enough, you can take shortcuts in that way if you'd like to. Okay, so there we go. I'm gonna erase some of these things here. All right, so this is gonna be the main cabin of my car. And then there's something else that a car has. It's got that front hood compartment area where the engine is at. So that whole front nose part of the car, that's going to be another box. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to connect that box to be right on the edge of this box. It's going to be more like a rectangle here. So I can, if I wanted to, just make it flush with the bottom of the car. That might be pretty easy to do that. Remember, any side planes need to go back to the vanishing point, so that's why I'm drawing those diagonal like that guy right there, but then this is part of that front right there. Remember, this is inaccurate. This should even look wrong to you. Remember, you need to bring this back to the vanishing point. Actually, when I do that, I'm just gonna cut off the bottom of my whole car like that to keep it flush on the bottom. You see how that worked out like that? Even at this boxy stage, you can start to see how it's looking more like it's a car. So at this stage, we have the front, we've got the main cabin area. We can have a back as well. Most cars have a back. If you were doing this in your thumbnail stage, making sure that lines go back to the vanishing point, you don't necessarily have to use your ruler, but it's definitely helpful. Okay, you can see that right there. You could also, if you wanted, you could have made a really long, flat, rectangular cube and then put a more boxy, squarish cube on top of that. So there's a couple different ways how to do something like this. And then we have the 4 wheels. So again, those are going to be boxes here. I'm going to start off with a square. This is going to be the thickness of my tire right here. And that is going to go back to the vanishing point. Establishing a box or cube is going to help me establish what angle that ellipse needs to be drawn. Okay, just like that. So that'll be where one of the tires is. We'll do the same thing. Notice how I'm even using that guideline for my road to help establish where my tire is. Same thing I did. The back I'll do, or same thing I did in the front I'll do in the back. I'll actually have my tire extend back there just a little bit into that back trunk area. Again, this is where a picture would help. We've got remember, things further away from us are going to be smaller than the things closest to us. And then over here, of course, if I wanted to freehand this in, you can see this. As long as you're careful, as long as you know what you're doing, keeping it equal. Notice how a straight line needs to align those two to make the wheels seem like they are in the same plane with each other. All right, so now we have our boxy car. This is where the fun part comes in. I'm going to lighten all of this because these are my guidelines. And by the way, like, your project should not have something that is this in depth for a car per se. It can be something that's a predominant perspective thing that's on the street if you wanted to. But probably a lot of your cars or other vehicles are going to be something that's more of an after statement in the buildings, and those things are going to be what you're going to focus on. And that's fine, but what this allows me to show you is how to get something that doesn't naturally look boxy, and by using boxes, we're going to now freehand, I'm going to stylize this a little bit here. We have this going back. Notice I'm using these as guidelines, but I'm not following them precisely. We've got this, we've got, I know my car has these kind of funky looking triangular headlights. Maybe there's a little grill thing going on here. If I wanted to put more elbow grease behind my erasing, I could actually really erase some of these things. I can have my windshield come up like this. Let's clean this up a little bit. Using those guidelines I had. Sorry if I'm scooting the paper out of the frame. Okay, and now we have the wheels. Remember, wheels, they are ellipses. You can even cross. Remember how you find the middle? You cross them, there's the middle. From there, you draw your ellipse, just like that. From here, this is another reason why having sources is going to help you, so you can see not just how to draw in perspective, which is what I'm doing here with constructing. I'm constructing this this card of boxes, but if you look at a photograph, then you'll also see where alignments are and what overlaps what, and how the side of the tire needs to look next to the actual face of the tire, just like that. Another one right there, a thinner ellipse. Just like that, kind of a fun little guy right there. And he'll probably be in shadow. Now I know your project does not have any shading, it will just be line, but just for the sake of illustration, I'm gonna shade that guy in because he's back there. Got some fun. I like this little nose dip in my car right there. He's kind of fun. Like that. Got the glare. It's the side right there. And if you wanted to, you could add like some doors or something. Maybe, you know, these little bumps where the tires go underneath. Something kind of fun like that. You could do that. I'll erase that though for sake of being clean. So this would be an example of how you can take an object that in and of itself is actually full of curves. There's really nothing boxy about it, except we'll need to put boxes down to get the general perspective going back into the distance. And it's also a good example of how to show ellipses and circles. I know that some students, they might want to do like a chandelier. So there was an example even of a chandelier. So let's say you were going to put in a light fixture coming down. We'll still use this vanishing point. And let's say we wanted to have a chandelier. I'm going to go ahead and draw remember you start off with your flat facing square or rectangle, and then bring that back, whoops, to the vanishing point. All the corners, all the sides, boop. Boop. Oh, this is getting pretty close right there, because if you notice, I've made the chandelier pretty close to where the horizon line is. So we're just gonna get, yeah, it's gonna be difficult. Yeah, we would just get something barely showing on top. So I'm gonna, for sake of illustration here too, I'm gonna lower this. Make it a little bit lower so that we have something better. And I'm gonna go ahead and freehand this in. Just for sake of time, the sketch. Remember, for your project, you do need to use a straight edge. Oh, I wonder if y'all can see an error going on right here. That cord that is hanging onto our currently squared chandelier is not in the middle. So how do you fix that? You got to find the middle of this guy in order for it to make sense. So to find the middle, remember, we connect corners, boop, there's the middle. And that would go up to the ceiling right there. And that even looks better, looks more balanced. So at this stage, let's say we wanted to do another smaller. So we've got two boxes here, they're overlapping. And let's say we wanted to, we're obviously above, we're looking down on this, and this needs to be round. Within here, we have this ellipse then. We're going to wrap this ellipse around, and then this guy would be the same. Oh, totally made the wrong size, didn't I? Redraw that in there. whole thing is going to be curved. Because we're curving into the corner, we're not going to make it all the way to the corner of that square. So we're going to have our ellipse with the curved corner that's going to chop off that corner. Same thing's going to happen down here. And I had this drawn in. I'm going to have our ellipse, so he's going to come down as well. And one is overlapping the other, so we would erase what we cannot see. Sorry, I know this is a little messy, but hopefully y'all can see how within that flattened plane, that top plane, going back to the vanishing point, this is how we would know how thin or how flattened to make our ellipse. And then we would extend this down, we would curve this, have this ellipse curve right here, match this guy, just like that. I'm gonna go off of my guidelines here and curve. Go off of your guidelines to know where to place something, but then use your logic, common sense, and sources to draw the rest of it. Definitely use sources. Clean this up so this sort of have our little, this is our chord. This is a messy sketch, but there we go. And we have light coming down from this circular lampshade chandelier thing. And there we go. That would be how we could take a couple of these different objects. We could turn them into something that's more organic, curved, or circular from something that begins as a box so that we know it's in correct perspective.